Hello and welcome. You join me in session on an overnighter down my local lake, but don't worry, you're not here to watch me blanking. We're actually stopping over in preparation for a filming trip tomorrow where you're going to join me on the casting field, where we're going to do our field testing for our second episode, and this time around we're going to be working on aerodynamics. We'll be testing lead shapes, hookbait sizes, lead arrangements and a range of PVA setups. What we want to know is how much difference does it actually make? Wait till I tell you how far this has gone compared to a distance lead. Crazy. It's definitely opened up my eyes anyway. So as you can see over my shoulder, we've set up a bit of a casting court, starting at 160 yard, ranging up to 220 yard. We've set the cut up with the wind off our back. The only reason mainly is you tend to get more of a consistent result with the wind in the same direction. Crosswind can affect the cast massively. Now that is something we will be doing on a future video, which will be very interesting because I've done a bit of that testing in the past, and I promise you, you won't want to miss that one. But in terms of the setup that we're using, it's my ever faithful Trakker 13-foot 3 3/4 Propel D, 12-pound line. As you can see, we've got a leader on here. It's a white shock leader. The only purpose for that is because we're on a field. If it cracks off, it's much easier to find. The light does tend to reflect off it, making it more visible. We've got a leader. At the minute, we're set up helicopter style lead. And we've actually got a rig on the end, minus the hook, just in case it cracks off. We don't want a dog or anything to pick it up. So yeah, that's the setup. Let's get started. So test number one, lead shapes. Now, as I said before, the setup that we got is a helicopter setup. You know, we're all conditioned into thinking helicopter setup is the furthest casting method. Distance leads, small hook baits. This is what people think is your preferred method for distance casting. What we want to know is how much difference does it actually make? So the first up is a distance lead in 4 ounce. We're going to be testing 3 other different shapes, all in the same weight, 4 casts of each one, and then we're going to give you the average distance of each one. We'll let you know the results at the end once we've finished. So that's lead shape number 1 complete. We've done 4 casts ranging from 195 yards to just over 200 yards, about 201 yard. We're now going to test the other 3 lead shapes, which are a flat pear, a square pear and a clinger lead, and then we'll let you know the results at the end once we've finished and see how they compare to what we believe is the furthest casting setup. Right, I'm not going to tell you how far this has gone, but it's surprised me, to say the least. I actually can't believe how far it's gone. This is the clinger lead, the one I was expecting to go the least furthest. Wait till I tell you how far this has gone compared to a distance lead. Crazy. It's definitely opened up my eyes anyway. Right, so that's lead shapes done. As we'd all expect, it's not going to be too dissimilar to what we thought, but it's very interesting. So in first place for the furthest distance, as we all expect, is the distance lead. Second place was the square pear. Third place was the flat pear. And as we expect, once again, is the clinger lead. But the surprising thing is what distances we actually achieved with them. The distance lead was averaging between 195 to 200 yard over 4 casts. The square pear lead was 185 yard to 190 yard. So not too dissimilar compared to a distance lead. The flat pear was exactly the same as the square pear, surprisingly enough. Considering it's slightly less side aerodynamic as what we'd expect, they actually flew very, very similar. Now the surprising one was the clinger lead. That still went 180 yard to 185 yard, and that cast you just seen me do back there was actually 198 yard, which we've not included in this because we did a few more after it. It's a very inconsistent lead to be casting long range, that, because of the nodules on the lead. It inconsistent with flight. Obviously, it's not designed to cast long ways, but if you need to cast a long way, say you're fishing on a slope on a far margin, it's a long way away, this lead can get those distances in the right capable hands. But 180 to 85 yard is massive for that kind of lead. I think in summary what we thought was maybe it was catching hold of the wind, because we have got the wind off our back at the minute. Maybe that's assisted it. I think I've been casting pretty consistent. Everything else has been very similar, so we could only put it down to maybe the wind conditions. And we did a little bit of testing yesterday as well with that lead, and it was the same. You had a massive difference in cast. It was maybe 15, 20 yards different. Overall, once we had a bit of consistent weather, they were very similar. But I think that lead is massively, massively dependent on the wind condition. But yeah, as we expected with the leads, let's get on to hook bait sizes and see how much of a difference that makes. So onto hook bait sizes now. Now we've just tested the 12mm. As you've just seen in the lead shapes, we actually had a 12mm boilie on. So we've already got the distances for that, which were 185 to 195 yard with the square pear lead. Now we've actually got a bit of a donkey choker on here. It's a 22mm hook bait. We're also going to test an 80mm hook bait and compare those distances to what we've just achieved with the 12mm, which, like I say, was averaging 185 to 190. So it'll be interesting to see how much difference this is, whether the wind gets hold of it and assists it more, or it reduces it because of the drag. We're soon going to find out. So there we go, hook baits done and dusted. Now the old donkey choker did exactly what I thought it did. A little bit of drag resistance because of the size. This was topping out around the 175, 170 yard mark. The 18mm was around 180. And then as we saw before, the 12mm was around 190, 185, 190. So I think as a rule of thumb on average, bearing in mind it's the wind off your back, it'll be a lot different with a crosswind, which again, we'll see on a future video. But it was around 5 yards difference in hook bait sizes. So that was a 12mm, 18mm and a 22mm. So yeah, hook bait's done and dusted. So let's move on to lead setups, where it's lead clip versus helicopter versus inline. So first up, I'm going to start with the inline. Now I've never cast an inline for distance before, so it'll be new to me. So my prediction from what we saw before with the helicopter setup going around 185 to 190 with the same square pair, obviously this is just an inline version, I'd like to think 175. I think we'll lose 10 yards off this, and just because as it's in flight the rig's going to be pulling backwards, I feel like it's going to twist the lead and it's going to cause the lead to fly at an awkward angle, and it's just going to be as least aerodynamic as possible. I think you're going to be travelling through the air with the big flat side first. So I like to think 170 to 175 yard is my prediction for this lead. Well, I was a little bit out with my numbers. 188 yard for the first cast, which has massively surprised me. I thought with the hook link coming out the end of the lead, it was going to tilt, cause a bit of wobble, not fly true, but it surprised me. So I'll do 3 more casts, then I'll jump onto the lead clip. 4 casts with that one, and I'll give you an overall average of all 3 lead setups at the end. Right, so that's lead setups complete. Now I think this one has been the most surprising for me. As we saw earlier on, the heli setup was maxing out at 190 yard. Now this is the big surprise. The lead clip and the inline, I thought the lead clip would outcast the inline all day long. And I've just done 4 casts with each one side by side. So I'd cast a lead clip and an inline after each other, and the lead clip actually came second 3 times. So the inline lead has actually outcast it by around 5 yards each time, apart from one where the lead clip outcast the inline by 3 yards. Now I don't think it's me casting. I think I've been quite consistent throughout the whole period of this testing. I don't think that's the case. The wind's been very consistent. We've got probably a 10 to 12 mile an hour gust off our back, which has been pretty steady throughout. So it's all I can say is I think an inline actually cast better than a lead clip. I might do a couple more and see, but I think it's inline for the win. But one thing that I found interesting, which we've just discussed, is would a bigger hook bait make a big difference with this? Because we said before about the hook bait dragging the lead back. I mean, this is only a small hook bait, 12 mil. We're thinking of putting a 22 mil on and seeing how much of an impact it actually has. Now, in theory, going off what we tested earlier on with the bigger hook bait, we was losing on average 5 yard per increment of hook bait that we was using. So we went to an 18 mil, lost 5 yard, went to a 22 mil, lost a further 5 yard. So in theory, should we be getting around 170 yard with this with a bigger hook bait? Or will the bigger drag make the lead tumble even more? We'll soon find out. I know it's a bit off topic what we was doing, but we're going to do 2 casts just out of interest, out of our curiosity. It's something we've just been discussing on the way back. Do 2 casts, see how it is, and then we'll let you know. So that was the 2 casts done, and it was exactly how we thought it was going to be. 13 yards shorter on one cast, 10 yards shorter on another cast. So one was 175 yard, one was 178 yard. Still impressive for an inline lead with a 22 mil bait. But the theory that we put into practice that we said at the beginning, where you was losing between 5 to 7 yards per increment of hook bait size, it's been exactly the same for this. I thought it was going to be a bit more exaggerated because of the shape of the lead, but it was exactly the same as this, as it was earlier on when we tested the helicopter rig. So yeah, 175 and 188 yard. Right, so it's the last test of the session. We've got a PVA bag weighted out to 4 ounce. We've just had to tape it up a little bit just so it doesn't explode when it lands, and if there's any damp moisture on the ground to stop the bag from melting. This one we've got a little mesh bag, 7 hook baits, and then finally we're going to do a PVA stringer. We know the bag's going to outcast them, but we're going to see just how far it's going to go. There's the first one with a solid bag. Best cast of the day for accuracy. I've been straying a little bit left to right today. I've not been on point, but that one's right down the middle, just over the 170 mark. Maybe 173, I'd say. 4 ounce solid bag. Not too bad. I'd be more happy with the accuracy than I would be for the distance, to be fair. But for a 4 ounce bag in this weather, I'd take that all day long. So last up of the PVA section is just a little 4 bait stringer. I would imagine it'd be very similar to the mesh bag. I'd say this would be a little bit shorter, but I don't think there'll be too much in it, 5 yard or so. So we'll give this 4 goes, and then we'll give you a run through of all the results. So that wraps up the testing for the PVA. Now, as expected, no surprises, exactly what we thought in terms of first, second and third, but the overall distances, the PVA stringer was, where are we now? Between 165 and 170 yards. The mesh bag was between 170 and 175, and the solid bag was between 180 and 185 yard. Now, no surprises, like we say, but the wind's changed a little bit. We've got a bit more of a crosswind. It's probably ever so slightly different to what we started earlier on, but in terms of comparison for each one, those are the results we got. Now, one thing we're going to do lastly is, I do get a lot of comments when I'm casting, and the comment is, that's just a bare lead, how far would you go with the rig? So basically, we've done it the opposite way around. We've done all the testing with the rigs, and now just out of interest, I'm going to send out a 4 ounce lead just on its own, just to give you a rough indication of how much you reduce your distance by adding a rig onto just the lead. So I'll do 3 or 4 casts now and I'll let you know in a sec. Right, that's a wrap. I've done 3 casts with just a bare lead. Now I've had to change the direction I've been casting because we set up the court early this morning with the wind off our back. The first test that we did with the distance lead, the wind was perfectly off our back when we was getting 195, 200 with the rig. So to make it comparable to the same, I've gone with the wind, I've only moved, I don't know, 25, 30 degrees to be right. It's changed ever so slightly. So I've put 3 casts out. They've gone around 210 to 215 yards. So as a rule of thumb, I've lost around 15 yards by adding a baited rig. So over 100 yards, maybe 10 yards for most people, 7 to 10 yards you'd lose with a rig on. So it's just a bit of a gauge. If you're having a lead about with just a lead, you know that when you put a rig on, you're going to lose maybe 10 yards for every 100 yards. Obviously, the weather conditions play a massive factor when it comes to casting. That is definitely something you're going to want to stay tuned for a future video, because when we do the weather conditions, casting in crosswinds, hitting clips, seeing where your rigs land compared to where your spawn lands, how much shorter it lands because of the crosswind, that is definitely one that you're going to want to keep your eyes open for. So throughout this series of videos, we do want to hear your comments, your feedback and your thoughts on what you would like to see tested out on the field. There's so many different variables and factors that are included when it comes to carp casting, and we want to try and give you the answers to what you want to know. So definitely drop your comments in the section below, let us know your thoughts, and we'll do our very best to work through them all and show you exactly what you want to see on the field. I hope you've enjoyed the video once again. If you do like the sort of content, definitely subscribe. You're definitely not going to want to miss the next one. But yeah, see you in the next one.